Hello, Matt Elliott here.
Hi, Alan Smith here.
Hey guys, Ian Hume here.
Hi everybody, Jerry Taggart here.
Be sure to watch
Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV
For all the latest Leicester City news and information.
You can also subscribe on YouTube and various social media channels.
for the latest updates and news on Leicester City Football Club.
Come on, you foxes!
TV, your first choice for everything Leicester City. Tune in and join in now.
Right, Chris.
All right there, all right at the back. How are we all doing? How the devil are you? Well, it's sloppy seconds time. Don't tell Brad. I've obviously already done the opposition review, and I had to be quite nice about Man City. Let's be honest with you, they're a different class, aren't they? I mean, you know Brad and his predictions by now. You know, we all know the North Macedonia chant. Well, he predicted 9 goals in this game. He should have he shouldn't have maybe gone down to the old bookmakers because, and we don't recommend gambling, children, but yeah, we did get 9 goals. Just wasn't expecting that. This is Leicester Till I Die TV. It is the post-match show, and this is where you can watch us, or if you're listening on podcast, where you can hear us.
Watch us on YouTube. Listen on your favourite podcast platform or ask your smart speaker to play the podcast Leicester Till I Die.
Subscribe, like, follow, and join in now.
Well, that was Christmas. Did you have a good one? When can you remember? I mean, I think it was Man City, possibly the last time we actually won on Boxing Day. I hate Christmas. I bloody hate Christmas.
It's the Premier League post-match show with Chris and Brad on Leicester Till I Die TV.
Strap yourself in.
Because we're set up, switched on, and ready to go.
Ho, 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 Brad. Good evening. How are you?
I'm all right, mate. I'm kind of still trying to wrap my head around what happened yesterday because that was the most bizarre 90 minutes I think I've ever witnessed.
I mean,
for a long time at least.
5 minutes in, I'm thinking, well, here we go. 25 minutes in, there we were, because I mean, we know we say we don't always get off to a good start, but my God, even by our standards. But then we know, look at the defence that we had, and then second half comes out, we get a goal. I can't eat. I'm laid on the sofa watching it because obviously it's Boxing Day, still in my gym jams, and I can't even. I just went, yeah. I couldn't even get excited. The second one went in. I'm like, hang on a minute. The third one, I mean, we went down fighting, didn't we?
Yeah, we did in a weird way. I mean, I put the tweet out about the game afterwards. Obviously, I dreaded the 9-0. I got the 9 goals, but just not quite the right order of numbers of where they go. But I was kind of expecting the worst, and when it was like 4-0, I was thought this could be worse than 9-0. Well, it was a game that in the end, in the weirdest sense, and this is why I don't believe in this play 45 minutes, they were the better side, because in the second half, you can sit here and tell me it was 4-0. I'm very aware of the score at half time, but at the end of the day, we were technically the better side in the second half. It was one of them that could have ended 5-5-4, 6-6. 7-5. In the end, it was 6-3, and it probably just. I mean, you can't go away from home, concede 4, and expect anything. Very rarely do you. But it was. We had that moment, didn't we? That 10-15 minutes in that second half was absolutely out of nowhere for us.
Do you think though that I'm sat there at 4-0? I'm thinking like, this is going to be the story of the day. You know how bad we were, blah. And in a way, I felt happier losing 6-3. Than I would have been 4-0.
Yeah, well, it also probably changed the headlines. I think there was probably a lot of journalists that maybe at half time were preempting the notes of Man City rout Leicester, which in fairness, still they did by 3 goals. They did beat us by a big scoreline, but the way it transpired in that second half, it changed the headlines from Leicester rant to Leicester get beaten rout to Man City win 9-goal thriller.
Yes.
Which, you know, it's easy to forget how thrilling it was at one point. You know, at the 60th minute mark, after 45 being 4-0 down, to be there at 60 minutes in the game somehow was a little bit of brief joy.
Well, you like a quiz question every now and again, don't you?
I do.
Who was the last team to score 3 goals at the Etihad?
Probably us.
It was. It was Leicester City. I mean, watching that, when they were going forward, you're thinking like, yeah, they you know, you can see why they're top of the table. You can see why they're unbeaten in 6 or 7 or whatever it is. But even in that first half, defensively, we could have had a couple.
Yeah, we could have, but you know, maybe on another day, you know, we play a team that maybe only takes 1 or 2 of them chances. You know, it just shows the clear gulf in quality in between the other probably, I'd say 18 sides, because I think Liverpool have sustained themselves well enough over the last 5 or 6 years to kind of say they can be in a different class when they're on form as well. But it shows the difference between Man City and the other 18 Premier League sides when they can just re-find a gear and shut a game down. I mean, Iheanacho missed a chance. All Brighton missed a header. It could have been 4-4 before Man City remembered that we can't defend corners and scored 2 more, just to remind us. But yeah, it was one of them, mate. There was definitely chances.
I mean, when you looked at the squad when it came out, and you look in there, and I'm sorry that you're I didn't pick the fact that your favourite player was on there. The only player to get naught in the did Rich tell you that you'd given him 9, but did you remember?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
I was tempted to do that.
It was a 9, mate. I just missed a flick off the end and gave it a 0.
Yeah. But when you look at that back 4, Brighton, Amati, Vestergaard, Thomas, I mean, when you look at that and think, well, our best defender there is Amati. I mean, Brighton was getting. He'll play in that role, but it's not a natural role for him. You know, it wasn't the best defensive, but you know that's been the story of our season, isn't it?
Yeah, and unfortunately, we're at this time of year where maybe, I mean, you can certainly understand why, but especially with what's continued to happen and seemed to double in pace for Leicester this season. We've got Soyuncu and Daka out for a couple of weeks. That horror challenge that I managed to get a yellow card has now put Ricardo back on the shelf for 8
but
weeks.
Apparently I was being unfair to the Liverpool people, if you remember, from Mr. Vehemently Object, whatever he was called. Yes.
Yeah, well, he can object no more because that guy should be sitting on an 8-match ban, let alone us missing out 8 weeks. But then we've got Soyuncu, Daka on that. Vardy's been rested.
No, Danny Ward. I think he's COVID hit, isn't he?
Yeah, Danny Ward's through COVID, and you probably say out of the 2 sides we were playing over the Christmas period, because obviously we didn't play Everton and Spurs, you're probably looking at Man City thinking, go down fighting, as long as we don't lose badly, even though the scoreline suggests that, we know from watching the performance that it wasn't actually as bad as the scoreline may have looked. More so, obviously, in that second half. But given the squad that was out there, I think we kind of say, all right, we lost with a bit of fight. I can see that. I think the likes of Ndidi and Castagne were really wanting to be saving for Liverpool, because maybe he just feels his chances at home with a full King Power and a more stronger lineup than what we was going for with Man City. Because with the greatest respect, so that good, it was more of a free hit. I think he picked this one as a free hit over the two games, to be honest with you.
Oh, undoubtedly, I think he would have done. I agree with you, but even if you look at the bench, you've got Japokovic, who, you wonder whether why he's still at the club, really, don't you? Nelson, McAteer, but I don't think those players, although they're on the bench, if Vardy was fully fit enough and was just being rested, he would have come on in that game. Sumari and Ndidi, we were missing them in midfield 100%, but again, they were never brought on, and I think that's because, like I say, they weren't 100% fit.
Yeah, that is the case. I think they were literally there to put the numbers on the bench. But I mean, the weirdest thing is, though, if you look back over it, we gave them 4 of their 6 goals. Indeed, we shout at Ndidi for tackling in the box. Well, we also need to make sure that we get bouncers around our box and stop Tillemans from fouling in there, because he played culprit twice in that. So that's definitely an area where we're making it harder on ourselves, knowing we're vulnerable from set pieces.
Yuri didn't have his best games, let's be honest with you. The second one was definitely a penalty. The first one, but I'm surprised. I mean, Inacho was almost doing Strictly Come Dancing with the Man City strikers. I'm surprised that he didn't get punished, to be honest with you.
It's one of them that we've just come so accustomed to, that if VAR takes longer than 3 seconds to give a decision back, and it goes to the screen, it's like, well, that's it, we've got penalty. As soon as I heard it gone to the screen, I was like, it's got to be this penalty, then this is going to be given. And that's the case 97, 98% of the time with VAR. Very rarely do you see them go to the screen and do it. So, I
mean, I have to be honest with you. I think if indeed he was fit or enough to play and Tillemans was on his game, I think we could have been looking at a different result there. But yeah, I as David says there, we thought, well, we didn't deserve. I don't think we didn't deserve that scoreline, but it's our defence, and I think we've just got to accept this season that are we looking at buying somebody in the January window for the back 4?
Yeah, but knowing our luck, even if we did, they'd get injured on the training ground, or they'd get taken out, because it seems like everybody's targeting our defence. I don't think they can stop our midfield in terms of attack. We're seeing that with the very big positive. Stood out like a sore thumb, Alisson, in that game. Was really good, really energetic. We know what Tillemans can do. We know what, on their day, the likes of Barnes and Vardy and Daka and Inacho can do. And credit to Lookman as well. Let's go give him a shout out for his goal. But teams clearly know that if we don't have a back line, they can cripple us. So if we did sign someone, probably someone would clean him straight out, and he'd be out for 6 weeks.
Welcome to Doug here from the Dugout Football Channel. I think he's trying to be funny here with the way it's going. Leicester will go for Nat Phillips at this rate. All I will say is, Doug, and we are going to be on a show together on Wednesday, looking at the Liverpool game. We wouldn't have to be looking at another defender if one of your players didn't break the legs of one of our defenders with a horror tackle. And VAR waste of space, isn't it? Because that, like we said, that he should have been off. So, do you want to let us know how many players that Liverpool strikers and players are going to? I mean, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough that you elbowed one of our players in the face and got away with it. You had to physically actually break a leg, Doug.
Yeah,
So
well,
I jest, of course, but if that had been the other way round, the Leicester player would have been at least sent off, wouldn't he?
well, you get that feeling. Look, it was really bad officiating. Both sides complained about the officiating. Even Liverpool fans complained about the officiating. In fact, sometimes that officiator remind me of the Voldemort of footballing referees when it comes to Leicester. Remember the Atletico Madrid tie at Filbert Street in the 90s? Oh, that referee never refed in Europe again after that. But it didn't help the fact that Atletico still end up beating us. It's not like he got done for trying to match fix. No. He just got told he's not allowed to ref again, but poor Leicester have to suffer. Sometimes it happens in football. Sometimes a clown gets given a whistle and he likes to not use it.
Yeah. Doug there, I'm having a joke with you, mate. He was saying that he said it was a red. I agree, mate. You know, I jest with you, and I've even come out in a Christmas jumper in honour of your good self, Doug. What can I say? No love has a fan for a fellow fan other than to copy his dress style. Doug says, there's no understand why there's no VAR before the semi. I totally agree with you. If you haven't hit the semi-final, you should have it throughout.
Yeah,
and I wish Ricardo well. Cheers, buddy. Cheers. I think we just need to park the team bus in front of the goal. Then we might get something. But I mean, looking at that game, like I say, at half time, I was almost tempted to go off and do something else. It was definitely one of those games where if you left early, you missed the fun. At 4-3, I was thinking, could we? Is this possible?
Well, yeah, and I think you'd be hard pressed to have found a Leicester fan that wasn't thinking that. In fact, probably you could tell by the atmosphere change when the goals, when Leicester started their own little quick fire of goals. Just not too dissimilar to how Man City tumbled into a 3-0 lead. Leicester fans were suddenly making the Etihad very quiet. I didn't hear the Man City fans over that 10-15 minute period. In fact, it was very amusing hearing Leicester fans singing "We're going to win 5-4." And you did. I think they must have, whatever Man City fans bothered turning up, were probably going, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
Because I honestly, out of all the goals they scored that day, the loudest cheer I heard from the Etihad arena was the 5th goal for Man City, because it was filled with relief. You could hear it in the fan support that they were relieved that they didn't get caught out again, because, like I said, we had our chances. Maddison probably had one of his best games, like a true leader. I know I'm an advocate for goalkeepers, but just maybe, because he led from the front for everything that was good yesterday.
The funny thing was, and we joke, and I called it the Etihad on my show early when I had 2 Man City fans on. And Charlie, Charlie, the Man City fan, and he said he was quite impressed that I managed to find 2 Manchester City fans to come on. So respect to him for that. But I mean, again, you look at the scoreline, 6-3, but they had 17 attempts, we had 14. Yeah, they had a load of possession, but we know that means sweet FA. We where we lost out, and we had 289 passes to their 736. We had 438 touches to their 894. That kind of sums it up, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And look, Man City are always going to hold on to the ball. It's what they do well. That's how they wear it down. And they wore Leicester down in that first half. It wasn't exactly a wear down of having to run around and chasing shadows. It was a wear down of the mentality that Man City were always finding space. They were always slowly creeping forward and looking dangerous. And, Leicester were found throughout the 90 minutes caught between who to block off and, which angle are we cutting off? And that's just what Man City do to every side. And like I said, God's honestly, I think people might say we're 4-0 down, Man City took the foot off the gas. they beat a team 7-0. They don't take the foot off the gas.
No.
They don't take the foot off. Get Pep Guardiola goes absolutely mental if he sees them not.
I asked the Man City fan that would they have taken the foot off the gas, and he said, "I think you just caught us cold in that second half. We just weren't expecting it."
Yeah.
You know?
And I'm telling you now, I would not have been surprised. Like some of the greatest managers that we talk about from further generations back, we know that they'd have come in there. I remember a certain Alex Ferguson story. I can't remember the player, but he was like, thought I had a really good game, and he came in and said, "If you pass it backwards one more time, I'm going to sub you off." Something like that. I can imagine that Pep was the sort of manager that went in there and went, praised them for the win, but then also would have been like, "But what was that 15 minutes where we stopped playing?"
You could see him on the touchline. He wasn't happy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not many teams, in fairness, from what I said before, there's not many teams that would go to. There's not many teams that will go to Man City and win this season anyway, let's be honest with you. But there's not many teams that will go and give them that much of a scare.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, you really have to watch back that 90 minutes if you're a neutral to fully understand the scoreline in the end, really not telling the full tale, because what you'll realise by checking on the scoring sheet is at 45 minutes, Leicester were dead and buried, and at 60 minutes they were within a whisker of pulling off a Christmas miracle or a Boxing Day surprise.
You did say at 4-0 down when we were messaging each other, we need a miracle, and I did say, well, it is the right season for it.
Well, yeah, but unfortunately it wasn't to be. We've had a few before. We've had a few turnarounds, but again, that somehow, even though we've felt a bit, like I said, I feel Leicester fans in a weirder sort of way will look at that game in a more positive light than a few. There'll be concerns from Man City's fans. I mean, a lot of neutral supporters, like particularly Man United fans, were saying Leicester might have got beat 6-3, but they exposed Man City's weaknesses and showed that any team with the right attitude, and again, maybe an applied attitude, if we'd done it in the first half, could have, if we'd have done it throughout the 90 and not just in the second half, we showed that they do have frailties. They're not quite as unstoppable.
I mean, the two Man City fans I was talking to, Charlie and Charles, I know it sounds like a double act, doesn't it? But Charlie and Charles were both very complimentary about Leicester, and it was a case of the scoreline didn't really reflect the game. And they were really worried when it was 4-3. Like you said, when that fifth goal in, it was relief. But that was a performance from what I would, we've talked about this quite a few times. The Great Escape year.
Yeah.
When we got beat, but we were putting up a fight. I mean, we probably never lost one by that bigger scoreline during that season, but we were fighting for every game. And you came away thinking, the lads have done it. I didn't come off that. I came off the match in when we played Liverpool angry, not only at the team, but also at Brendan as well. I couldn't be angry with anybody after that game.
No, everybody did what they usually did for us when they're at their best. So, Perez was non-existent. That was good. Lootman turned up. Maddison and Tielemans, all right, yeah, Tielemans gave away 2 penalties, sure, but he still was pretty vital in good things. You can't really have a go at the defence because there wasn't really one in the nicest terms. There was a Marty. We had Castagna on the bench. We had a right. We had a third. The only thing I do question, and again, it's probably only because he wants to make sure Castagna is fully fit before he plays, given we keep getting injuries left, right, and centre no matter what. But I didn't say he had a particularly bad game there, but it did worry me a little bit seeing Albrighton at right back.
I think it was a case of needs must, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
because we know he plays regularly in that. Maybe that's the way that Brendan sees him now. But
maybe he thinks he can convert him like sort of Christian Fuchs-esque sort of thing.
Yes.
He can do the wing back role, defensive wing back role more than Thomas can, which seems to be the case. I actually think a lot of times when Albrighton's played as a right wing back or a left wing back, yes, probably due to injury, but sometimes it's not been due to injury. Sometimes it seems to have been a preference where he'd rather have the defensive-minded player that's not going to go too far.
Carry on, sorry.
I was just going to say, but you could argue maybe against Man City, with the way they like to progress up the field, it couldn't even be exposed, but he didn't do bad, to be fair, given him his lack of game time.
I mean, David says here, Brad, when you analyse the game, which he's not going to today, in fairness, it was Christmas. We've given him time off. He shouldn't, he wanted to be with his family. And you try and analyse that game, like he said, but we gave him a bit of time off for this. But he says, but you can answer this for us if you want, Brad. Do you think the turnaround also benefited from formation changed and or subbing off Perez? Second half time talk, plus that made us look nearly unbeatable for 25 minutes or so.
Yeah, I think Southampton did something similar against either Man City or Chelsea or Liverpool. One of the three, I can't remember it. But I think Man City, Southampton were playing and they got absolutely slaughtered in the first half, probably in the same sort of scoreline. And they completely, I think they were 3 or 4-0 down come half time. And then in the second half, they fought back. They didn't get quite the rewards that Leicester did when they started to fight back. I think they even may have lost the game 4-0 and it stayed there. But the guy who was doing their game said it came way too late. I shouldn't assume it might have been a female commentator, but the person who was analysing their game when it came way too late. But Southampton have clearly changed the shape and are having a lot more of the ball. So yeah, I think definitely the shape changed. I don't want to be too harsh, not necessarily just because Perez came off, but it's also sod's law that when a guy's not the most favourite player in the bunch out of a lot of Leicester fans, but then Lootman is on that side and he goes and gets a goal and plays, and then all of a sudden goals seem to flow for Leicester. It's easy when you're like the least favourite chocolate in a tin of celebrations. At Leicester is Perez, to be honest with you.
He's the chocolate cream, whatever it is, of Leicester City.
Yeah, he is. He's what
coffee cream. That's it, coffee cream. Yeah.
Yeah, he's whatever you least like out of a celebrations tin or something. He's probably one of them. He's not probably many popular choices as a favourite Leicester player. So it didn't benefit him in Sod's Law case that he came off and that sort of did it. But I think you've probably learnt a lesson, and again, you've shown the vulnerable that, yeah, right, Man City might be able to score 3 or 4, but you've seen clearly that if you do that for them and can do it over the 90 minutes, you could come out with a 3-4 goal thriller, and Pep Guardiola won't keep allowing that. So then you'll make him change something, and then, maybe it becomes a bit easier for other teams to play against them.
Yes, yeah. I mean, do you think Chowdhury should have come on earlier for Tielemans?
I think, unfortunately, just as he was about to come on, it was 4-3, and then lo and behold, Man City went, Leicester can't defend corners. Let's get us a corner and see what we can do. And there we go. And then it kind of took the deflation out, because I think the idea was obviously to kind of give him that Ndidi role sitting in front. But with Chowdhury, you're going to get a bit more about you going forward. So, the idea was to maybe swap it to the counter and try and find that goal late on. But the wind was taken out of ourselves. Then it's never easy to get a second wind in a game of football after you've put so much effort to get where you are, from being miles behind the 8 ball. But yeah, it's sod's law, isn't it? In hindsight, it's easy to say that he should have got him on earlier, but had Laporte not got that header, and then we got up the other end, and and Iniesta makes it 4-4. We're going mad. I'm throwing my phone and breaking it, and all of a sudden we don't care that Chowdhury's not come on yet, do we? It's just
no.
It's all about timing sometimes. It's sod's law, as they say.
Totally. I mean, looking at all this, Liverpool was it Thursday we played Liverpool?
Yeah.
Man City Monday, Sunday, sorry. Liverpool Tuesday. I mean, I get the Boxing Day tradition, but it's bloody stupid, isn't it? So many games in modern day football when injuries do happen a lot more than they used to. We shouldn't be playing this many games, should we?
Look, it's all 10, 15, maybe even 20 years ago, probably that far back, you might have to go. It was a mystery as to why these players were coming out saying it, and we were sat there thinking, why is he doing it? And then lovely Sky Sports became the next biggest thing, and we had multi-million-pound companies like Amazon and that now that want to keep franchising and showing games. It's not about the safety of people anymore. It's about, well, can we make it look like we're trying to do it for them, but really we want to line our pockets. Let's face it, no matter how good they are, and there's nothing, they're businesses, it's what they do. I'm not trying to besmirch how they do it, but let's face it, unfortunately, the powers that be aren't the heads of the table at the FA. It's the big kingpins in the suit that go, we pay a lot of money to secure games. We want to be able to play them games. So play as many as you can. And over Christmas, when you're sat indoors doing nothing, what's the one excuse you have? Oh, watch the footy. I can go down the pub on the 28th and watch the footy because I haven't got work. It's perfect for them to keep games congested, no matter what's going on, sadly. That's how they see it.
Very, very true. I'm going to now go under the table and put my hard hat on, because this is for you, Brad, from Brookline. It's got to be for you. Perez was immaculate in the first half and should not be a scapegoat. We were overloaded in the wide areas, mostly on the Mahrez side, so switching to 5 in the back set up the second half counter.
Look at the end of the day, we was a depleted squad, and that squad that was put together was held together by chewing gum, bubble gum, sticky tape, and there was probably 4, 5, maybe more players there that had probably played 90, 180 minutes of football at best. Collectively, maybe even it was that little, especially poor Iheanacho. So nobody did anything to me to kind of use him as a scapegoat and say that's a solitary mainstay reason. My point with Perez was he's just maybe sometimes when you've got a bit of disdain, or because we've seen for so many long periods of time bad performances and annoying performances where he's ended up getting subbed off after 45 minutes, and we've sat here so many times, more predominantly.
Sorry, mate. I really hope you said subbed off then, because it sounded
definitely did.
Something completely different. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm thinking, what?
Well, you might play better. Anyway, we'll move on.
So this is why Brendan keeps putting it on, does he? Yeah.
I'm glad to clarify that I did definitely say subbed off. But it's easy to sit here and sometimes look at it, but this isn't a game you can pick at a player. This is one of them. It was sod's law that someone who's not probably, like I said, the most popular with Leicester fans seems to have a no-show when, like you said, it was well, for a good 40 minutes, it was men against boys. Let's be perfectly honest.
Totally.
Let's be perfectly honest. At the end of the day, am I sitting here going, oh, well, it would have been bloody 6-0 if it was Perez staying on the pitch? No, at the end of the day, he could have. He was told to do a job at the end of the day, and then we changed shape, which changed our approach to the game. It changed our tempo, which just then seemed to suit the person, the people, the players on the pitch at that time. There's no suggestion to say that, well, if Perez was on the pitch, does Nacho have as an easy side pass at 4-all, and we don't know. So nobody's getting the stick thrown at them by me today. Not even Perez.
Scott, good evening to you. How the devil are you, sir? Hope you had a good Christmas. A little message for Brad there. He still can't believe you rated Perez a 10.5 season review.
Yeah, behave, Scott.
Quickly looking at the players, as good as you know, sometimes we do it, but every week, if you go on to the website lcfc.com/match center, or go onto the homepage and click on match center, you'll see all the ratings and everything that's given out. And Brian, who does the match report, does individual player ratings, and I thought it'd be interesting to look at this because it was a match that we lost, but it was a match that we sort of fought well in. And just to go through these, Brad, let's start with Casper. Because on the show earlier, David posted, even before we'd started, that we should be getting rid of Casper. He was at fault for 2 of the goals, and we know his distribution's not very good, but I just say with Casper this season, the hell he's got nobody in front of him. He hasn't got a settled defence in front of him. You could combine Peter Shilton, Gordon Banks, and Kasper Schmeichel into one goalkeeper, and he'd still be having problems this season.
Yeah, that's true. And the thing is, we've probably been very blessed that because we've had a strong defence previously before this season and all the injuries and decimations, that people maybe forget that, Casper's still making saves. I mean, that without that's as much as we can sit here and go on another day, we could have scored 2 more and it could have been 5 or 6 or whatever. On another day, Man City could have also made that 7, 8 goals. He made some saves, he made some errors, but he's notoriously facing. I would not be surprised if this season already he's faced more shots than what he did all the entirety of last season. He's facing more because we've got a depleted defence, and people need to remember that if he's facing, I mean, what was it, 17 shots?
Yeah.
Okay, granted, that goal, that shot across goal, I don't think he needs to make the save like that. I think he can rely on his defence to clear it because there wasn't actually a Man City player near him. Yes, I'm going to say he makes mistakes, but he's probably now, on average, facing 15, 16 shots a game, isn't he? If we look back at
in a normal season, you could rely on the defence.
Yes, exactly.
In fairness to him, he has to make a quick decision, and with the way the defence has been, I kind of understand why he went for it.
Yeah, you can kind of relate to the reason why he probably did feel the need to make that save, and I think an Evans and Soyuncu, a Fofana and Evans, Fofana and Soyuncu and Amati, solid defence, whatever combination of them 3 or 4 you want to work. Maybe he doesn't make that save, or he trusts what's in front of him to get rid of it and clear it. But like you said, Chris, it's been so thrown together sometimes. Literally, it's like, I feel like Brendan sometimes had to go, can you play? Please. No. What about you? No. It's easier for him to write a list of players that can actually play, let alone trying to ask if they can play centre-back or whatever, because that's where we're at. So I get it from certain terms. But David De Gea springs to mind. If you want to compare him to a keeper that gets a lot of stick when it seems to be going wrong for his club, so the fact that someone who saw the game probably far better than we did is giving him a 7 and he conceded 6, it's telling you that maybe thanks to Schmeichel, let's face it, 2 goals there's nothing he could do about because the penalties. He's got the odds are well against him in that scenario. It is what it is. I think people need to remember what he did a lot of good, because this entirety of the season, if you compared some games from last season, you're probably looking at games where you'd go, oh, well, they're getting the same amount of shots as they were last season. But what you're not really taking into account is last season, if we played Southampton and they had 14 shots, they're probably getting 12 of them blocked. So Casper's not having to do anything. Whereas this season, and Man City's having 17, and I wouldn't be surprised if Schmeichel was involved somehow in saving all 17, if you know what I mean, even if it was straight at him or not. He's had a lot more.
Of their 53 shots, only 29% were blocked.
Yeah, and it's probably
that's awkward to look at, because you could say of our 14 shots, 57% was on target and only 7% were blocked. But that doesn't include the ones that flew up into the stand and things like that. Scott, I was just looking at that actually. Danny Ward is injured. I think he's one of the COVID people. He wasn't even on the bench. Jupokovic was. So he is currently being assessed along with many, many others. Just going back then to that, we've obviously done Casper. I mean, or Brighton 7, that might be generous. Vestergaard, I mean, I think we all put our head in our hands and went, "Oh my God," I don't think he particularly did much wrong. He still can't jump. He's 6'6" and he is about as tall as he gets when he's jumping. on that. What did you think of Vestergaard?
Again, this is probably one of the hardest games to give a rating for, because we're probably so fond of just a spell of football. Because we probably started to, in the nicest way, we probably started to watch it in autopilot. This game at points, especially in that first half. But again, I'm going to judge this the way Brian sounds like he's done it, where he's judged this on the entirety of everything, every detail, whether it's suspensions, game time, every little aspect of this game. And I don't think really there was much wrong that he could do. You may have faulted him for one of the goals. People might say he's still crap. I'm not saying he's not brilliant at this moment. He's still a long way off getting anywhere near that team on a consistent basis. But it was one of them. He was up against he's up against
an interesting one that he's judged, because it was a defeat, but we kind of played well. Madison is man of the match with 8. Lookman, I thought was okay. In Acho, Tillemans and Perez both getting a 5. Tillemans didn't have a good game, but he didn't have that Ndidi or even a Samari next to him that could give him the freedom. How often, in fairness, have we seen Tillemans in our own box?
Yeah, that's very true, and I think that's one thing that's always been pointed out by Tillemans. He probably believes in his ability, but he feels more comfortable to go about his business when he's very assured of who's next to him. And obviously we know he had Madison in that game, but he's probably very conservative, and he's such a team player and always wants to win the ball back. And so does Madison, by the way, because we're talking about Tillemans here. I'm not saying he's the only one, but you can see by when he plays that when he knows he hasn't got a, Ndidi or a Samore next to him, or even a Chowdhury, that in that role, that he does feel the need and the urge to, I've got to pull my shift. We haven't got that, players sitting in behind us, so I need to make sure I'm doing it. And unfortunately, it was, the reverse of the Etihad from last season. It was us giving away penalties for fun. And unfortunately, it wasn't his greatest game, but that's not his greatest aspect. He is like Madison. He is the big cog in the engine in anything positive going forward. Their defensive work is not really something you see or expect of them to do too much throughout the 90 minutes. So, unfortunately, his magic feet in the box at the right end, but not so much on the defending side of things.
No, and he can't. I'm sorry, you can say whether the first one was or wasn't. It was a bit, iffy. We got away with it last season because all those penalties, you could say, was Vardy looking for some of them? Oh God, yes, he was, sort of thing. So it's kind of equals out. Scott says here, hope we bring back Daniel Everson off loan at Preston North End, as we'll be challenging for the top goalkeeper spot next season. I think so. Danny Ward. You can't write Danny Ward off, and he's out with COVID. But you can't write Casper off. Like I say, a goalkeeper is only as good as his defence.
I think sometimes. Oh, sorry, Christian. Go on. No,
I was going to say, if you look at the Premier League winning season, Morgan, Huth, Fuchs, and Simpson. What a great back four to have in front of you, and a goalkeeper can only do so much.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, to be fair to Danny Ward, Danny Ward's probably suffering from the same thing that Kalichi Iheanacho seems to suffer with, and that's unfortunately for him. The spot that he's vying for, or the role that he's vying for, is being occupied by one of the best we've ever seen in our Leicester shirt in that particular position. Nacho's going for it with Vardy, and Casper's in front of Danny Ward, and that's just that's also more testament to Danny Ward, when he has been given the opportunity, whether it's a cup game or not, it doesn't matter. But when he's played, that we've seen him perform at a very good level. So unfortunately for Danny Ward, I mean, we paid 12 million for him, so we obviously have the intention to play him. We keep giving him contracts and time on there, and we've not too many horse whispers of any kind of disgruntlement from Danny Ward. He clearly knows his position, but whilst Casper's still putting in great performances, whilst Vardy's still throwing goals, neither of them are going to get in their desired position until until the time comes that they either move on or drop off a cliff.
And at the end of the day, when Daka came, he knew he was competing with Vardy. When Ward came, he knew he was going to be competing with Schmeichel. Goalkeepers do go on that bit longer when they're playing anyway. And like I said, I just think Casper, I still, I think I said a few weeks ago, possibly drop him, take him out the limelight. But I think when you play in these sort of games, Premier League games, he's got to be in there. And like I say, I mean, it says here, David, if we all say about why Casper makes some mistakes because of the lack of trust, why on earth doesn't he command his penalty area better? If our defence is so poor, come out and punch or grab the cross.
I mean, again, it's easy in hindsight, but maybe there is that hesitation in the lack of communication all round.
Yeah,
there doesn't seem to be a voice. I agree with people that are saying about Casper and his captaincy, because I made the same point about Maddison when everybody was questioning him and his form and where it gone and why it was. I said the guy takes corners, free kicks from all over the ground. He's discussing everything. He was practically playing second captain. Let's face it, he was practically a vice captain further up the pitch. He seemed to be given too much responsibility, and Casper seems to be able to do it knowing he's got somebody like Johnny Evans in front of him, because he kind of lets Johnny Evans be his voice from within, sort of thing. He's the one that gets the message out. He knows, but we all know what Casper's like. But maybe it's time we give somebody else that responsibility. As harsh as it sounds, I think you need to take that responsibility off him, and we need a mouth out there. We need somebody who's going to command it a bit.
I mean, Facebook user there, moving on, says Vestergaard needs to go. I mean, he's come in, and I would question why we bought him, with his history at Southampton. But in fairness, he's had a couple of bad games, us and Man United when there's been, but it wasn't just him on the pitch. You know what I mean? There was a lot. It was 10 other players on the pitch in those games, or 9 by the end of both of the games. He's come into a back four that's unsettled. When was the last time we played the same back four in 2 consecutive games? And I'm sorry, sorry.
I said I can't remember.
No, and I'm sorry, you can't. It's when you see, and I'm the first, as you know, I'm the first to have a moan. But when you see that balls are being passed to people that aren't there, that's because when you've got a settled team, you're used to people being there. And I've got to ask myself, is he as bad as we say he is, or is it just the fact that the defense is just sort of all over the place, all of them this season?
Yeah, I think if we're being honest with them, when you're a player that comes to a club on a new thing, let's face it. It's anybody in the comments wants to tell me hand on heart that they saw us signing Vestergaard to be a first team regular, then fine, by all means, fair dues. If that's what you were expecting for how quick the deal was done for 15 million, but I can assure you, I don't think Vestergaard came to Leicester. I think he's come here with the intention to try and prove himself at the level of being, in regards to playing at a team that are competing higher up the league than Southampton. Not necessarily saying that Southampton are any worse than us, but what I'm saying is in terms of what we've been doing over the last 3 seasons, he maybe fancied his chances to push for a team. But realistically, from a fan's perspective, we looked at that signing on the back of Fofana's injury. It was right. It was a case of, right, now we need an extra backup / rotation player in. And look, again, yeah, you're right. With all the injuries as well, that's another thing. It doesn't help. I don't care how good you are as a footballer. I've also just doesn't matter how good you are. I don't care if you're Ronaldo. I don't care if you're Messi. If you're not seeing the same, at least 7 or 8 faces out on that field every time you step out there, you know, bar a cup match or the Christmas period aside, you're gonna struggle to keep team cohesion. It doesn't matter how good you are, you're going to struggle to keep doing what everybody does on that training ground. It might sound ridiculous, but when you're so accustomed, like you said, you're so accustomed to the same at least 8, 9 players on the team sheet, and you're so accustomed to, like you said, week in, week out, right, when this happens, we'll get the ball. As soon as you get a chance to clear it, whatever they're being taught on that training ground pitch, whatever they're told to do prior to whoever we're playing, if you're then suddenly asking 6 or 7 substitutes to come and step in out of the cold and do exactly the same and think they're going to get it right, you're barking up the wrong tree thinking they were going to be able to do it at a level of a standard that someone who's playing week in, week out, it's just not physically possible.
Do we need to buy somebody in? I may well, I can't remember whether I've said this to you or said this in the other show about buying a defender in January, or do we we know, problem is when everybody comes back, we're going to have a team full of defenders, or do we promote Benkovic to the, and I know we've talked about this before, but give him the chance because he is a defender. And sometimes a defender that you would score 6 is better than say an Albrighton that you're gonna, isn't used to playing in defence. Do you give Benkovic his chance for half a season to help us out?
Not if he's not good enough. If he's not good enough, and he's been at this club for in staying times, in staying times of this generation of how footballers move on as well as managers, he's been here long enough and worked with Brendan long enough. Because I'm sorry, but if he was not deemed good enough for the first team to even be sitting around on the bench, the fact that there's the likes of Matakatir and Nelson getting calls up, and I know that's because he was omitted from the squad and he hasn't been able to, but the fact that, instead of having him available at all costs, even if it was to go and play in a Carabao Cup game against Yeovil Town or Liverpool or whoever, the fact that there was such an obvious, and you're given the fact that we came into the season before the registration was closed with probably 3 defensive injuries, and he still doesn't feel he's worthy of being in that team, tells me that he's never going to be ready to be in that team. I would rather Ben Nelson and play. I'd rather him play if that's our situation at the back than I would Benkovic, because I'm sorry, maybe he's ironically what I can see is selling him this winter, or at least loaning him out.
Yeah,
Benkovic, because he just doesn't get in that. He doesn't get on the bench of our team.
Yeah,
I know he can't. I keep saying that. I know he can't. I keep forgetting that he can't because he's not in the thing. But I don't think he makes it on the bench even if we register him. I think it's a wasted spot. If we register him, he still wouldn't make the subs.
That's fine. Brookline says, must be a statute in Leicester that prohibits saying anything negative about Yuri. I don't think we've been positive about him in this show. And I think
he had his worst game for us in a long time. He was a disaster for us in our own box.
Yeah. But we have to remember, and it's funny doing this show now rather than doing it straight after the game. You do look at it with different spectacles. And I know we don't do it straight away. We do it like an hour after the kick, after the final whistle. And that does give us time to calm down. But it's funny, like the way I feel now is probably different to how I felt then. And I would probably be more critical of him then. But yeah, he didn't have a good game. But then we've said that about a lot of players during the season. David says, Vestergaard watched De Bruyne carry that ball and take the shot on his left. No press, no threat, just stood and watched it all happen in front of him. Scott says here, going back to swapping over Barnes and Lookman. It's not worth a chance, probably. Give it a go.
Lookman's versatile, so it's always there.
Yeah. It bears reporting that Nacho had one of his best games, even though we have noted he plays his best in the front two with Vardy or Daka. Yesterday we saw the best of him without either. Yeah. And okay, Daka,
Which shows,
he's got COVID, hasn't he? So,
well, he's out for 3 weeks, him and Soyuncu. And again, just to touch on that point, quickly ending off the Vestergaard point that Dave made, it's easy to sit there and say, oh, well, he backed off. Well, no one else closed him down. And how do we not know that Vestergaard was told, look, first of all, him and Amati are two completely different styles of centre-backs. Vestergaard isn't the quickest, so he's not going to go out and get exposed to the back because he can't track back and make up the ground like an Amati or a Soyuncu or even an Evans, and even he struggles sometimes. I've touched upon it with Evans saying that he doesn't need to press too hard. So Thiago Silva did it against us in the FA Cup. It's what these defenders are told to do. They're either told not to press or they're told, look, if you've got someone like a De Bruyne running at you and he knocks that ball past you at the edge of the box, he's got a 3-run at goal. We would rather you try and fend him off and shield him and make him shoot from distance than run past you and be one-on-one with Casper. You have to remember that every player is managed to try and do what's best for them. You sit here and say, and you're right, it did look negative and bad that Vestergaard just sat back and sat back and sat back, but you'd have been absolutely even more raging had he run at De Bruyne dropped his shoulder and ran straight through and took it around Casper and put it in an empty net. At the end of the day, he hit a shot that went in with a defender in front of him.
Yeah. And also you got to, why wasn't the midfield closing him down?
Yeah, exactly.
He's
not the only player defending on that day. It wasn't like it was Vestergaard versus the entirety of Man City.
No. And it is very easy. And I'm including myself in this. I've not been Perez's biggest fan, but sometimes if you're not careful, you can end up blaming somebody just because of who they are, rather than the sort of.
And then you end up searching them out for the excuse, like somebody said. I can't remember which one it was. Sorry to the person who commented, but they end up becoming a scapegoat to a point because it becomes such a natural reflex from so many bad performances. I'm certainly not sitting here and saying it's a Vestergaard, it's a Perez, it's Tielemans' fault. I'm also not going to sit here and say Tielemans had an amazing game when he didn't. I'm not. We don't do that here, and I'm very happily, well, not happily, but I will quite gladly sit here in a way. Again, bad choice of words. I'll figure one out one day, but sit here and say, look, Tielemans didn't have a great game. I think a 5's generous. I'm not going to sit here and suddenly go, oh, blindness. Tielemans was great. I didn't see anything wrong with his performance. I'm not sat here watching a game like that. I'm sat here freely, both are sat here going, no, Tielemans was a disaster. Really.
Yeah. Looking here, and just to round it off, sorry, Yeti, good evening, Yeti boy. How the devil are you? At least Bertrand didn't play. It would have been 10-3.
And there we go. Someone who's probably fallen into the Perez and Vestergaard bracket. Yeti boy. Yeah. Nice to see you, mate.
Yes, let's. We're going to have a quick chat about man of the match, etc. straight after this.
Hi, this is Chris from Leicester Till I Die. Thank you for watching and listening. Happy New Year.
Already, I know. I tell you what, get rid of the Christmas jingles, bring the New Year ones in. 9 players we've got ruled out at the moment. 9 players. Now, you don't hear Brendan complaining about it, do you? I mean, Klopp, he'd be taken a 4-page advert out in the Liverpool Echo, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he would. Well, that you've just reminded me by saying Klopp. They've never really complained about it. Do you remember that interview? I think it was last season when Maddison went, well, Liverpool are always moaning about their injuries, but we're never really bothered. We just have to get on with it. That's one thing I'll always say. At least even if you don't have us, maybe you see a few names on the team sheet sometimes, like a Bertrand, like a Vestergaard, like a Perez. maybe even a Samore to some people, or a Lukeman, strangely, even though he keeps having these performances more regularly, people seem to not rate him as well, talking him in lines of under. You know where I stand with Lukeman. I actually like him. I think he's someone we should make a permanent investment in. But it's just what it's. I've completely lost my train of thought now. I started listing off players. Train of thought where I'll go with my
It's called age, mate. It's called age.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. But
Oh,
no,
dear.
don't worry. It'll come back to you. Brookline says their new sweater looks sharp. Thanks for the show, guys. Great as always. It actually isn't a new sweater. I'm surprised it still fitted me. But my son came round asking if I'd got a Christmas jumper he could wear, because he hadn't got one, and obviously everywhere had sold out, because of course typical bloke like his dad does all the shopping Christmas Eve. And I found one for him, but then I discovered these that I'd forgotten I'd got. I still about 3 Leicester Christmas tops that I completely forgot. Hopefully we go and injure Salah just to make Klopp cry, get Hamza on him. Thing is, Salah's going away soon anyway.
Well, there's a bit of a delay, isn't there? Because we don't lose indeed in that until January now, I believe. So I'm not sure if it's the same for every squad, but we've had a bit more of a reprieve.
I think it is, but I mean that's only 3 days away, isn't it? So I think these games,
don't you? Literally.
Yeah. I mean, I think these games tomorrow and this week are the last ones before everybody flies off for the Africa Cup of Nations. Scott, Chris hasn't Brendan always stated prefers a small squad to focus on, so maybe less players to pick from makes it more appropriate for him. No, at the end of the day,
Scott, you might say that, but the way it's going for us at the moment, he might have to put Danny Ward at centre back.
Exactly. I went out and bought some shoes in the sale yesterday. Football, just in case I'm called upon.
Jerry Taggart might have to get replaced on LCFC radio just so he can go and play for 90 minutes.
It is true. Man of the match. Let's have a look at that. I've got to be honest with you. I'd probably agree with this that Alan did after the match. Maddison is man of the match and 6 for the manager, and over the 90 minutes, 6 for the team. And I think that's, in fairness, I'd have probably given the manager a bit more, because I think with what he had to play with, he didn't make bad choices. The team, yes, we were. It was a game of 2 halves, wasn't it? I mean, technically, we won the second half 3-2, and I think for me, James Maddison was our best player out there.
Yeah, normally in a game like this or a heavy defeat in terms of scoreline, you're looking hard pressed to pick a man of the match. But in a way, this was really easy because honestly, everything that Leicester got right, obviously most notably in that second half, it seemed to always either start or end with Maddison. Every attack or every assist created felt like it came from Maddison doing something. I mean, that breakaway that I think was for Lukeman's goal, I might be wrong, someone will correct me in the comments, but when he danced his way in between the 2 Man City defenders to put them on the back foot, it was brilliant to watch, and you'd be hard pressed. I think the fact that after 25 minutes, Alan probably had -2 for the players and the manager's rating. So seeing them at a 6, they made up being on minus points, from the first half performance. That a 6 is probably fair as well, both sides of the coin. So I can't argue with that. And Maddison definitely stood out as the man of the match.
Now, we usually do what's coming up next, but what is coming up next is us. We're back tomorrow, post-match at 10:45.
Yes.
I think we'll be probably having about the same sort of conversations, won't we?
Possibly, mate. Quite possibly. Hopefully not, though. You never know. I mean, Vardy's going to play. Nacho probably going to go into a 2. We haven't got. We haven't got Daka available. Soyuncu's not available. Probably we're going to see a few players get a few more minutes. But maybe we take that approach. Liverpool like to be very. What I call Man City and Liverpool, apart from unfathomable names at this hour, because it's pre-watershed. But what I normally say about them is they're very top-heavy. They're very dependent on their midfield and their front attacking line three. I know technically Man City don't have a striker, but they still line up in a three attack anyway, as it is. And I think if Leicester can kind of adapt that, and they showed they can do it against Liverpool's A team in the Carabao Cup, in a sense, it could be another scoreline that we're stood here going, well, Leicester have just beaten Liverpool by 7 goals to 6. So we don't know. It could very well be another game like that.
Let me just read out some defenders to you and how they are at the moment. Ricardo Pereira ruled out. Johnny Evans ruled out. Kaglis Oyunshu ruled out. Wesley Fofana ruled out. James Justin ruled out. Ryan Bertrand ruled out. And that's just the defenders. I mean, that's 2 teams worth of defenders there, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's 6 in total, and then you take into account the rest of it, and then you're talking in like literally 3 or 4 days' time. It's going to be no Iheanacho. It's going to be no Wilfred Ndidi. It's going to be no Daniel Amate. Well, Daniel Amate, did they qualify? I think maybe they did. So maybe he might be off. I don't know. You also got no Mendy either, I believe. Have you? No. He's not French. He's saying.
No, I think Amate is off. I do believe. Yes.
Yeah. So just what we need. So
thankfully, bless him, Daka's team's not qualified. So, phew, that's one.
One back out of 9. We're all right, mate. We'll win it.
Right. Brad, thank you so much. I hope you had a really, really good Christmas with your family down there.
Yeah, I did, mate. Thank you very much.
And I will see you tomorrow about 10:30, talking about how many players Liverpool have broken the legs off and smashed in the face with the elbow and got away with it. Oh, did I say that out
maybe.
Well?
Yeah, maybe not. We'll see, mate, won't we?
All right, mate. Thanks very much, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care, and all the best to you and your family.
Yeah, thanks, mate, and take care.
Cheers now. Goodbye. Thanks to Brad there. I tell you what, I say, where's Steve Lynix and Julian Watts? Get your boots on, guys, and get back here because we need you. Thanks for Brad for that. Great show as always. No Brad's tactic boards today. Can you imagine? He'd need a whole show to himself for his tactic board. And he admitted that himself. Yeah, it is nearly 2022. What do we think of the last year? We might be doing a special on New Year's Eve on that one. Stay tuned, folks. Don't touch that dial. 'Cause it is nearly New Year. And Brett says he's looking forward to a few free beers tomorrow. Are they doing that again? I'm down here on the South Coast, mate. Send me one. I will see you all tomorrow at about 10:30, 11:15. Fingers crossed. I don't know what the score is going to be, to be honest with you. I just hope we turn up again. I really do. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining in. We'll see you all tomorrow at 10:30. Stay safe, guys.
That's all, folks.
People are on the pitch, they think it's all over. It is now.